Sound Speeds. Welcome back to the Sound Speeds podcast, a member of the Geeks Rising podcast community. Let's waste no time and get right into our content. I had a viewer reach out to me recently and ask me, how do you record in bad weather? Well, it's the same as recording in good weather, except that you have to take a few extra precautions. And one thing I did when I first started off is I said to myself, I'm going to make sure that I get the quietest foul weather gear I possibly can. The problem is that stuff is not very effective. And as much as I can try to make myself quiet, camera is still going to put plastic bags on the camera. They're still going to put umbrellas over themselves. They're going to wear their own foul weather gear. And every bit of that is going to sound like any other rain hitting a trash bag will ever sound like. I mean, it will sound bad. No matter what rain hits that is designed to be weather resistant, it's going to sound bad. So I would recommend getting yourself something, not that sounds quiet, but something that is effective. That's something that I learned a long time ago. One of the tricks that I use when I was booming, when I would be booming these scenes in the rain, is I would always wear a regular hat that has a bill on it. And then I would pull I'd put my headphones on, obviously, and then I'd pull the actual rain gear, the rain hood around myself, and I'd tighten it so that way it was around here and the bill was actually sticking out. So that way, because what happens is if you put the hood on and there's no hat there, you turn your head and it's going to go inside of the covering. So it's going to be like this, and then you turn your head and you're going to suddenly like lose one eye. So wearing a hat with a bill on it is going to keep it constantly like this, no matter what direction you look at. And that's going to be very important if you're booming. Now, I would say as a utility, even as a sound mixer, you want to try to wear a hat underneath your hood because that's going to help you tremendously. Something else I did is there's a material called oilcloth. And oilcloth is actually waterproof, completely waterproof. And you can find people that make custom things out of oilcloth. And what I did is I found a seamstress who is actually located in Idaho, who specializes in manufacturing things that are custom order out of oilcloth. And so what I did is I had her make me an oilcloth cloak. And so that it would go around my head and then it would go around my shoulders, because just like a cape would, except the difference is it, instead of just being a cape that just stops here and goes down, it actually crosses in the front. The reason why is because anytime you have a cloak or a cape or something like that, it goes around your neck. As soon as you accidentally pull it on something or you lift up your arms, it's going to choke you. So by having this cross design in front, what it was going to do is you can lift up your arms or throw it back off of your shoulders, pull it forward over your shoulders, what have you. And it's going to be great at resisting the rain. It's going to you can pull it around you. If it gets overly hot, you can pull it back, because that's the biggest problem that you run into in bad weather is if it's raining, for example, and you put on all your foul weather gear. As soon as you do that, it's going to stop raining, the sun's going to come out, and it's going to turn into a sauna, because all it does is it captures the water inside, the moisture on the inside. So it makes you boil, and it's hot, especially if it's in the summer when it rains. So anyway, that is foul weather gear. But what about your actual, feet? Well, I did do a video on foot protection for rain and water. And so you can check out that video right there if you are interested. And I will also add this. Your feet are something that is extremely important to you. And so I also recommend getting yourself a good pair of socks, because sometimes the footwear that you wear is uncomfortable and you're standing in it for long periods of time. The footwear that you wear, it is very important for it to keep the water out. So it doesn't matter unless you just like to have your feet wet. You can get those kinds of shoes and stuff that absorb water and soak it all in. And if that's what you like to do, but I personally like to keep my feet dry. If I want them wet, I'll put them in the tub, but I like my feet to be dry. So check out that video, the one that I referenced a moment ago. And you're going to see different options that I bought all of them and I use them for different things. And usually what it boils down to is I have my regular shoes. I'll put the Neos over top of them most of the time, because that way I can continue to wear my regular shoes. I can throw them off whenever I want to. And they actually are completely waterproof up as high as you want them to, as high as the Neos go. And as long as you take good care of them. then it's going to be great. You're going to be able to use them extensively for a long period of time. Now, that is just foul weather gear. What about protection against your microphone? Well, there's different companies have different solutions. I think Rycote made the first product I remember called the Duck. Now, this is the first product. We were before the modern tech, solutions and stuff. People would take like hog's hair, furnace filters, and they would wrap it around and do different things like that to try to keep the rain from actually hitting your microphone. It would be more or less acoustically transparent. The biggest problem you run into with hog's hair is that it just is awkward to secure to the actual microphone, to the Zeppelin. And if you just put it around the microphone itself, hog's hair is going to stop the rain from making sound, but it's still going to go through and it's going to make your microphone wet. So people would put them on the outside of a Zeppelin. So that way it would be rain. It would stop the rain from hitting the Zeppelin, and then it would kind of go around it a little bit. One of the things that we have especially gotten really good at in the past few years is developing sprays that resist water. So I would highly recommend, if you're doing anything in the rain, get yourself some water-resistant spray and spray the crap out of whatever it is that you're trying to keep protected from the rain. Microphones, Zeppelins, if you use hog's hair, anything like that, make sure you spray it down with a couple of layers on the inside and the outside layers of this water-resistant spray, because it is extremely good at doing what it's supposed to, resisting water. So I would strongly recommend getting that. Now, as for the actual products that are not hog's hair, you can go with the OG as far as I'm concerned. The very first product I remember seeing that was just versatile. Now, that's the key word, versatile. You can have a certain product, like I'll get into another one here in a moment, but the Duck was, if I remember correctly, it was like 2 pieces of what looked like pool noodle. And it wasn't really, but it would go on mainly the top and the bottom of your Zeppelin. So that way, if you were standing there with the boom, flagpoling next to you, then it would keep the rain from hitting the top of it. And when you go vertical over someone, it didn't really protect a whole lot. The next major product that I remember seeing on the market was made by Remote Audio, and it is called the Rain Man. And it is basically kind of like a sock that goes around the Zeppelin. So basically it has Velcro on the bottom, and you break it from the bottom and you pull it around the top of the Zeppelin, and then you secure the Velcro. And it does change the sound of the microphone pickup, especially if you're not using a very, very narrow pattern like a CS3E or something like that. It is going to change it because, Zeppelins, they're good at keeping wind from hitting the microphone. But what a Rain Man does is it adds it's like a thick sock, and that thick sock is full of cotton. So basically, and it's got this weave on the outside of it. So if you spray it with the water resistant spray, it'll do pretty well. But the problem that you run into with the Rain Man is as soon as it starts to soak, that cotton soaks, it gets extremely heavy. And so the entire Rain Man is going to weigh like 3 times as much as the rest of the rig. So it's going to be very, very heavy. And not just that, because it is not acoustically transparent, the only area that's going to actually pull in sound is straight down the barrel. Now, you may say, in bad rain, that's all I really want to pick up anyway. That's fine. I mean, and that is true, because for the most part, you don't need to pick up all the extra sound of rain hitting the trees or the pavement or whatever around you. You just want it to actually pick up the sound that's down the barrel. And post will end up doing whatever they want to with it. So sound coming directly on axis straight down the middle is fine. Post is still going to have to do some magical things to make it sound right anyway. Because not just because of the only coming down the barrel and the off axis and all that kind of sound that still comes in the microphone through the vents, slit slots, whatever you want to call them. It's still going to. It's just not going to pull in all the sound that you want it to. The sound that helps balance the microphone and make it sound more natural. It's just coming down the barrel. But then in bad rain, really, you don't need to hear all that stuff anyway. You just want to get the person who's talking. That's really what it is. Now, the product that I personally like is made specifically for Sonella products, and that is the Piano and the pianissimo. And those two Zeppelins have something called the Pia Kelly. And it is kind of like it's kind of like foam. It's like a harder, rougher foam, but it goes around and it Velcros in, and it's made specifically for the piano and the pianissimo. And then if you spray the Zeppelin itself, the piano or the pianissimo, you spray it with the water-resistant spray, and then you put the Pia Kelly on it and then spray it again. Oh, that's probably going to be the very best you're ever going to hear. Because first of all, it does a really good job, kind of like hog's hair does, of preventing rain from hitting the actual Zeppelin itself. And then with the water-resistant spray, it really just drives home the point of water you're not getting in here. So it will flow around the outside of it without getting into to shorten out your microphone. Now, I still wouldn't recommend in bad weather, because it's humid, going with something that's more moisture sensitive. Like a lot of Shep's microphones are more moisture sensitive. So unless you acclimate them to bad weather slowly, they're going to be kind of bad. That's my opinion. They're going to short out. They're going to make it sound a little bit like it's underwater. It could end up, causing some weird distortions in the microphone. That is just my opinion based on my experience. But again, as long as you acclimate the microphones to it, don't take it straight out of an air-conditioned trailer, put it straight in your Zeppelin, and then say, why isn't it working? Because it's going to have some issues. So if you want to use your Shep's mic, your CMED or whatever, then make sure you take it out and you put it out there in nature and let it just acclimate to the outside weather and the pressure and the moisture and everything. That way, once it starts to actually just kind of acclimate to it, it's going to be fine. Just don't take that microphone back in the air conditioner to go to Crafty or something like that and then come right back out, because then it will be bad, but it will acclimate just fine. So know your microphones, know your gear, and just keep in mind that if you're using a boom microphone, that is something that's very, very critical, is for you to use some sort of rain protection. And the most important thing is use that spray, because the spray is extremely valuable. Now, another thing that needs to be talked about is lav mics. Lav mics, normally what people recommend doing with any kind of a rain rig or whatever else is hiding it under layers of clothes. The problem is it will soak up rain on the outside and will make the sound bad. So if you take wind protection, that's like heavy duty wind protection, like a Rycote Overcover or any of the Bumblebees or something like that, that is going to resist quite a bit of rain. That's going to just soak it all up. And it will still sound like it's muffled and garbled if you allow it to soak up. But use something like that and then put that underneath clothing in such a way where it's still going to try to peek out whenever possible. In short, treat rain like you would heavy wind. But then you still want to try to hide it so that way it's not visible, for one, because keep in mind, wet clothing could be see-through, or at least partially see-through. So be aware of that. And be aware that rain, once it starts to soak up too much, it'll start to get bad. Now, some people will use ShamWows and they'll make a sweat rig for it, but you still need to put something on the outside of it in order to absorb some of the rain, some of the moisture. But for the most part, keeping it out of the direct rain is going to be the most ideal thing you possibly can. But what about the world of tech? What about the cables and the transmitters and anything that you're running out to your microphone or running the microphone to the transmitter? Well, what I recommend doing there is using Glad Press and Seal. I actually have a video you can check out right there if you're interested, because I demonstrate what I do when I'm securing it. Basically, don't be stingy with your press and seal. When you put it around there, wrap it around. Don't be afraid to add a couple pieces of the silicone rescue tape if you want to. The silicone rescue tape is great for like XLR connectors and stuff, because when you have a connector that fits together, you want to make sure that the entire thing is wrapped up. And don't just use electrical tape, because electrical tape, once it starts getting wet, it will start to unravel. But if you use silicone rescue tape, it's not sticky at all. But once you wrap it around and apply any kind of pressure to itself, it will start to secure and bond to itself very well. So it will do that, and it will secure around your connector. So if you're running any kind of a XLR for a long distance because you don't trust your transmitters in Glad press and seal. Or some people use, plastic bags and they'll wrap that around there, and then they'll wrap rubber bands and stuff around there. But still, rubber bands with a plastic bag, it's gonna wear through. It's going to. But the press and seal, I find a much better results because you can seal it a lot better than you will with a Glad bag or something like that that's rubber banded off. But the main point I'm making here is that rescue tape is a great thing. The being able to secure something with this pressure base. Now keep in mind that once you put it on there, once you put the rescue tape on there, once it solidifies on there, if you have to change a battery or something like that, it's going to take you a little bit of time. You're going to have to use your embroidery scissors or whatever and cut around the outside to make sure you really cut all of it off there, because you're going to have to reapply the entire thing every time you change batteries, because it's not just a simple take the thing off. Now, there are silicone covers you can get for cubes and different transmitters that are supposed to be water resistant and stuff, but still, I don't fully trust those. I know I probably should, but I don't. I still prefer to go more old school, but there are companies that make products that are designed to resist water. And the big thing is, obviously, if you're using something like a transmitter, don't have the transmitter where the opening is facing upwards, where the rain's just going to fall into it. Make sure that you mount your cube or whatever it is downwards and try to keep it away from pulling up with moisture. Because even then, even if it's pretty form-fitting, moisture can still come down through the edges and start to seep in there. It's probably not going to hurt a whole lot if it's, properly designed, but still I wouldn't risk it. I would always do the rescue tape personally myself. And as for booms, a lot of people will, if you have to go cabled, people say avoid using the coiled cables. If you're going to go in the bad weather, use straight cables. Me, I always use coiled cables because it's a closed system. With a straight cable, as soon as you start to extend it, the cable pulls in through the boom. Well, if it's raining outside, it's going to get all this gunk or could get a whole bunch of gunk and grime and stuff on your actual cable. And then when you start to extend the cable, it's going to pull up into the boom. So I always used external or internal coiled cables in the rain. I called it my rain boom. And why did I get away with that? Well, quite frankly, it was because when I put the connector at the bottom of it, I put the entire thing wrapped usually in a bag with press and seal all around it to secure it. So it was multiple layers. And I didn't want to play with it. I didn't want to play with the rain in any way. So I always did that. As for most other gear, well, it doesn't need to be out in nature, does it? So it can be inside of the Sound Mixer's tent, where hopefully you're going to have a tent for your follow cart or your boom caddy or anything. Just make sure you keep it out of the bad weather. The main thing that you need to protect is the microphone, the boom, and the lavs, obviously, and the transmitters and that kind of stuff too. But we've kind of gone over that. But it is highly important for you to keep the rain away. Now, what about snow? Well, in bad snow, the best thing you can do is, if it's wet snow, treat it like rain. If it's dry snow, then just layer it up and make sure it doesn't get too cold. Just make sure that if you can add the press and seal and stuff to it, because by doing that, it's going to trap a little bit of the heat from the transmitter itself on the inside, and it's going to help it stay somewhat warm. But for the most part, if it's really, really cold, just wrap it up in plastic as you would if it was raining. And if it's dry snow, you want to try to keep it warm. One of the big things that when people are laving people up, one of the tricks is to get the transmitter warm before you put it on talent. And one of the things that people always say to do is turn it on, let the batteries burn, because it's going to warm the unit up. Problem is, cold weather is bad for batteries. And so it's going to already be shortened. The life of the battery is going to be shortened by being in cold weather. And if you start burning the batteries for like an hour or something like that long, you're cutting in on your battery time. And anytime you have to bury a transmitter underneath multiple layers because someone's going to be acting in the cold, you have to take that off of them to change out the battery and then put it back. And most of the time between takes, they're trying to layer up the actors, trying to keep them as warm as possible. So that way they will not get overly cold during a take. That way they can get a good base layer of warmth, that as soon as they take everything, all their warming jackets and stuff off, they're going to be warm. But what I recommend instead is getting yourself an electric blanket or electric, mat technically. So it's a mat like this. As a matter of fact, Sunbeam, the company that makes bread, they also made like a blue mat. It was a warming pad. I used one of those. Sunbeam, you don't have to buy the Sunbeam one, but I bought it, and then you put your transmitters in there and you fold it on top of itself. You just take it, and it already has like it's a plastic with the wires and stuff going through there, and you press it and you turn it on, but then it's inside of this it's like a pillowcase that it goes on. It's a little bit thick, but it's blue. And so basically what you do is you put your transmitters in there and then you fold it over on itself, and the warming pad will make them warm and toasty. So you don't even need to turn the transmitters on, and they're going to get warm and toasty before they go on Talent. And that is going to be one of those things where as soon as Talent realizes the transmitter is nice and warm, they're going to look forward to getting it. They're going to come say, "Oh, Sound Connect, can you please wire me up?" And then they're going to be like, "Oh, that feels so good." And they're gonna constantly love getting wired because it is a warming pad that's going to be right on them. It's a warming pad making the transmitter hot, and then that warmth is going to transfer directly to them. They're going to love it. Aside from that, the biggest thing I would recommend about the rain stuff is be aware of any lightning in the air. Be aware of anything that could potentially be a hassle. Standing water is going to be a potential hazard. Trying to push gear through standing water and stuff is a potential hazard. So make sure that you mention to the shop steward, or if you don't have a shop steward, make sure you mention to the first AD or somebody, "Hey, can we get some layout maps at the layout mats or not layout mats, that's the wrong term. Interlocking, what is it called? I knew it right before I hit record. But they are the interlocking mats. I'll probably remember here in a second. But what you do is you overlap them, and so that way people can travel over them outdoors in bad weather. So it's basically it's a gripping type of plastic that you basically put in, and it's any water and stuff that goes through it, it's just going to go right through the little holes in it. And sure, it may soak in, it may pull up a little bit around it, but still it's going to be really, really good for resisting, just mud, in general, and you getting stuck as you're pushing through, because it adds about an inch of layer to the actual ground itself, but you're not pushing through mud. You're pushing over the water, but you're pushing through this mat. Track mats. Basically, it has grip on there. It has like little raised areas that grab your tires pretty well. So as you're pushing your carts and stuff across it, it's going to go very well. And you can easily follow the path directly to set, and you're going to see where you need to go. So I think that pretty much covers the most part of what you need to be aware of. Boom poles are lightning rods, so you don't want to take them out. You always want to watch the lightning strikes in the area. Most of the time, the electric team is going to be looking for that kind of thing. And if a lightning strike gets within whatever the minimum is that the gaffer runs by, some say within 10 miles, some say 6 miles, some people say 4. Whatever the cutoff is, I would recommend having an app for yourself so you can double check it. But if lightning is within whatever your threshold is, mine was usually 6 miles. If lightning was within 6 miles, the boom did not go up. Sound mixer may say, "Go ahead and throw the boom up there." Nope, not going to. I'm not going to stick this up there when there's lightning 6 miles away, because lightning in this area, it ionizes the air, and it could instantly lightning anywhere. So if we're shooting outside in the rain, that's fine. But if it starts lightning, and not just thunder, if I start to see lightning and I see lightning strikes within 6 miles, I'm not going to chance it. I'm not going to raise it up, because there are reports of lightning that will be in one area, but then there's a lightning rod over here and it will just nail that because it's moved. And there might not be any lightning strikes for a while, but then it's ready to move again and it will lightning strike over there. And I don't want it to be my boom pole. No, I don't want it to be. So hopefully this gave you some insight as to what you can do if you are interested in protecting your resources in the rain. So there you have it, another episode of the Sound Speeds Podcast in the can. Hopefully, this gives you some insight as to how to protect some of your valuable sound resources in bad weather. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you in the future with more podcasting and more, as always, sound advice. Have a question you'd like answered or want to add something? Be sure to write it in the comment section down below. You can also make a suggestion for future topics of discussion. Again, comment section down below, or you can email me at soundspeeds@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss out on future sound advice.